We just hit our 20-year anniversary. We started 20 years ago. We're based out of Tempe, Arizona. We started back then with a kind of a unique business model, I think, from two different perspectives. So first of all, 20 years ago, we came to this market as the first software as a service. And so, we've never had any on-prem software. We've always had the only user interface we've ever had is the browser, a very contemporary architecture today that we started with 20 years ago. That really means for our customers, even though, I talked to a lot of customers, they're like, we're on this 20-year-old piece of software. It's archaic. We got to get off this thing and get into the 21st century. But since all of our customers have always been on the same version of the software, it's easy for us to make updates and changes to the configuration. We do that every couple of weeks. They happen in the middle of the night. It takes 5 or 10 minutes, so no big forklift type of an upgrade. And so even though we've got 20 years of experience in software as a service and managing the environment and 300 customers across the country, that type of a thing, you'll find Citizenserve is a very, very, very contemporary software. And I think a lot of that is due to kind of how we started from the architecture from the very beginning. And we've really maintained that thin client software as a service architecture today. The other thing that we started with from the very beginning that is still unique today is we defined ourselves 20 years ago, not as a software company, but as a services company. We realize that municipalities are going to want to make changes once they're up and live. It's hard to get budget to make those tweaks and changes, but you're going to want to adjust your implementation once you're up and live and going. And so for all of our 300 customers across the country and anyone at those customers who can log into Citizenserve, they can ask support to do whatever they need outside of like a data migration or a systems integration. And our support's going to get it done for you and get it done very quickly. We would get over 85% of the things that we get asked each day done the very same day. So if you want to add a permit or change your fees, or you want a new workflow route adjustment, or you need a report, you need a metric, you need somebody trained that came in to replace someone else, you want to change the content on the portal, you want to add a new programmatic condition for how you were scheduling inspections or whatever it might be. Anyone can ask for those types of changes through support, and we're going to get on them. The people that do support for us are our most knowledgeable people, and those are the people that do implementations that are starting with customers getting up and live and running from scratch. They know the most about setting up Citizenserve, and they rotate through support. So if you put a support request in today, people on support, yesterday we're working with customers, getting them implemented. Today they take those skills and all that ability. They're in support, working with you, helping you get your stuff up and live and done correctly, quickly. And then tomorrow they're back out doing implementations again. So it keeps, kind of a fresh set of skill sets going through support of people who know what they're doing. And that's really one of the two ways I'd say why we get things done so quickly. The other thing is, because we're making updates all the time and we are been actively engaged for 20 years in all of our customers and doing support, we continue to make Citizenserve very configurable. So that's beneficial both in your implementation as well as our ability to get your support requests done quickly and on time, in a timely manner. So, we're always striving to make Citizenserve easier to change and update, from the administrative side so that we can get your implementations done correctly, get them done in a way that really meets your specific needs. And then we can also get our implementations done quickly.
Ray, I have a question. Mm-hmm. Is there an option for admin in-house here with us internally to change anything that we want to change, or does it have to all come from support?
Nope, you can do as much or as little as you want. So the only thing that we wouldn't allow you to do is anything that required writing SQL against a database. But if you want to change your email templates or create new email templates or modify the content on the portal, or you want to be able to, there's a report writer, you can write your own types of reports. So as much or as little as you want to do, we'll train you to do all of that. If you get in a pickle and you need some help, put a support request in and we're there to help you through it also.
Thank you.
I have in my notes that we're going to talk about pretty much everything today with the exception of request tracking, but we can touch on that if you feel like you're missing out. We have about an hour and 15 minutes to go through this. So I'm going to try to touch high level, highlight the areas where we're really configurable. And I want you to know we're going to go through this demo in an environment that's set up as a demo environment. So it's going to show you our configurability options, but it doesn't have real use cases in it, right? It doesn't have real customer files in it or data. So if you see something and it's not quite how you do things in Prescott Valley, just ask if you have a question about whether or not we can accommodate how you guys currently do it. We think that we're really configurable. So we're going to show you what's possible, and we want you to ask questions if you have any. Okay, so we're going to jump out to the portal. So this is New Buena Vista. This is a very configurable portal, and this is for your constituents, right? We want this to be the one-stop shop. They can come and get information about your digital services. So if you weren't going to go live with request tracking, this part comes off the page. If you don't like the way the page is laid out, we can reformat it. This is all done through HTML. But when constituents come to the portal, say for permitting, they can click on this link to learn more, or they can go up to services and click on permits. And this is going to take them to the same place. It's some content that we want to configure specifically for Prescott Valley. So if they click this link, do you need a permit? We want to configure this page to have the project types that do require a permit, and then those details where they don't need a permit. And then the next step would be to go to submittal requirements. And this is where we'd want to link to your specific submittal requirements. If I click that building permit overview, this gives us a PDF file. But if your requirements are on your page or on the state site, we can point there in either of those places to get your constituents those requirements. Now, the next step is to apply, and we're going to come do that. But first, I want to take you and show you some other features. So we have a search option. So this is a place where your constituents can come and search for the files that they're interested in. When I submit, I can see a whole listing of files here, but I'm here as Jane Q Public. So if I click on a link, I can see information about this site, but I'm not logged into the system. If I click on the reviews tab, you can see I have access to see what reviews have happened. I can see the completion date and the status. But when I try to click on the view comments link, it asks me to log into the system. And I actually have to be a part of that project to be able to see further details. So if I back out and I go to the documents list, I can see that these documents have been sent or created. But if I try to click on a document again, the system wants me to log in. Some jurisdictions love how transparent this is, and other jurisdictions don't want to provide this much information to their constituents, just to the general public. And if that's where you fall, that's okay. We can hide the search feature and we can enable report writing. You can have report writing and the search feature just like we do on the portal too. But report writing is included in your subscription. So we'll write whatever reports you want your constituents to have and post them on the portal. These are just hyperlinks, right? So they're here on the reports page, but these can be embedded anywhere on your site. So if a constituent wants to see what permits are issued, they can come to a list or a map report. In fact, this one is a list report. And let's go from the beginning of the year to today. If I had additional details, I could use that to filter the results. But right now I'm going to pull in everything. And again, this is a link to it. I can access these if I want to, or we can hide this feature, right? So these are all options for you in reporting. And maybe I will show you, let's show you the map report. Let's do this permits issued report, and we'll do it in the same time range. So we can pull your data into maps and present it on the portal. When I submit this with my giant red finger here, this is going to pull all of the permits that have been issued in this time frame into Google Maps. So here we see all of the pins dropped here. We have a little legend with the colors up on the side. This uses Google Maps to display the data, but we're using your location services, like the best source of your parcel data. We'll get that location services from them. And then if you click a pin, you get to see information about that file. But because it's a Google display, we can use all of the features of Google too. So I can go to satellite view, or we can go zoom in. We can go take a look at a street view if you want to go and see what's happening in the neighborhood. Right, so all of that is just built into Google Maps. So that's just a little bit about reporting. I'm going to continue my tour of the portal, and then we'll submit an application. So I've clicked on the contacts tab. This is a place where we're going to list your department information. We can swap out photos, swap out content, swap out the layout. But the goal is to get the information into your constituents' hands. One other feature to note is that the portal is written with responsive design. So if a constituent uses their iPhone or their tablet to come to the portal, the content shrinks itself to display on that smaller screen. The reason that this feature is so important is that you can't dictate how users come to the site, right? And there are so many browsers or so many devices that can load a browser now, we just really can't dictate. And so it's written to enable that. So we're going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to click on this apply for a permit. This is where the system wants to know who I am. So you can see I have a bunch of logins that I can use. A new user would just click on the register now button and they could create a portal account for themselves. So if I pick, say, contractor, it's going to list all of these fields. Anything with the red pipe in front of it is required. You get to dictate which fields are required. The contractor fills out this information. They set themselves a username and a password. And if you notice, we can add any other fields that you want to include. So if you want to include licensing or insurance information, we can include that. When they submit, it creates an account on the portal and they can start submitting their applications. So you can search for them and find all of their applications in the system. I'm going to back out and just log in with my existing credentials. And then we're going to fill out this building permit. So we'll define as many subtypes as you need. We'll define as many permit types as you need also. There's no scope for that. You can have as many as you need. And we'll put Prescott Valley in the title so we can find it easy. So we're able to tie applications together. So if this were part of a project, we could put in that permit number, or we could put in the address and find that information. For this demo, I'm going to say this is just for a new project. And let's find something on Visalia. So I'm going to type in a partial address. When I click find, it's going to put this search criteria against my parcel data and pull in a list of all those addresses that match. And I can pick the address I want. You see that pulls in parcel and property data. We can pull more in on the staff side as well. So we have 33 different types of custom fields. So I'm just going to throw some data in here. If you have questions about any of this, let me know. And I'll try to just point out the highlights. Like this is a cut table, so it's a way to gather as much information as the constituent needs to give you, but it's really concise, right? It just starts with this table with the title row and then a row of data. So for this structure, I can say I'm going to build a residency, and it'll be VB construction, 2,000 square feet. And if I tab, I get a second row. And so here I can enter that I'm going to build a shed. Now, the application that I'm showing you is just the application that's built for my demo environment. So we'd actually want to take your application type and build it into the system. So these fields are not the ones you have to use. They're just a sample for you to show you what the system can do. So we've got two different rows, construction costs. I just added a third one, but it doesn't matter. I can leave a blank one there. That's fine. Now we can add contractors to this application. So if I add a contractor in the subcontractor field, when I start typing, it's going to pull in everybody with SME in the name. So I get all these Smiths. All of these users have registered on the portal, and that's how this is targeted to list these. So now, since I've added Sam here, Sam's going to be able to log in and request inspections down the road. And you can have as many contacts as you need. If you want, you can call them out by trade. These are just generic terms, right? Architect, property owner. In fact, property ownership data comes through from parcel information, but if your parcel data does not get updated instantaneously, right, you can have the applicant put in that they're the new owner. We can upload some documents. A site plan, we'll pull in a landscape plan. And then let me know if you guys have any questions about these custom field types or how the portal works. Now I'm going to leave this sign here blank. I want to show if I submit this form, the system, of course, is going to say, hey, there's a signature required, right? I left that one blank. So now I can go back and sign this one. There is a save for later button. So if your contractors hit this, it's going to save the application in their shopping cart. They can come back later and fill in the details and submit. But I am going to submit now. The system is going to check to make sure that everything's good. It tells me the application has been received, and then it takes me to the payment processor. And in the meantime, it sent me an email to my inbox to let me know that that submission has gone through. So not every jurisdiction charges at this point in time. In this jurisdiction, we charge a plan review fee at the beginning, and then we charge again before that permit gets approved or before it gets issued. How do you guys charge in Prescott Valley?
So our town code is written that we can charge up front. We haven't been doing that. And with our new director, well, actually our deputy director, he was thinking we should start doing that. So right now we're not, but it could change. Okay.
Sure. Well, we're able to do that. We are able to split it up. Some jurisdictions do an application fee at the front and the full fee at the end, and we can work with you. This is also one of those things that as your regulations change, we can make those changes, after you go live, as you need us to. So I'm just going to enter in some credit card details here. Go ahead and submit. Now, I did tell you that the system has sent a couple emails. So this is the first one that was generated. The online permit application was received. This is a template that we'll set up so that anytime a constituent submits an application, they'll get an email like this. You get to dictate the information that goes here. So if you have a special message about your turnaround times, right, we can edit these, change the color scheme. All of this content is just from the database. This is highly configurable. This link will take them back to the portal, so I would recommend leaving that in there, but everything else is fair game. And then when we made the payment, the system sent this one. So the system is going to send out these automated emails, and you get to dictate if you want them to go out or not, especially as part of the review process. We can set them up to be generated at the end of every task, or you can do it at the end of the whole review route. There's lots of configuration options there that we walk through with you. So now that we've submitted, let's go check out what this looks like from the portal side. We're going to go view our permits. We've got all of these different statuses. Ours was just submitted, so it's under review. When I click this link, it's going to open our project. So we have tools on the left-hand side, data from the database, and then we have different tabs across the front. So this is the permit tab. It shows the questions and answers that we submitted. The reviews tab shows the route that's been assigned, and routes are configurable. So we have 5 different steps in this one. Only one has a start date. That's the intake or the completeness check. When this one gets completed, then it's going to trigger the next 3 reviews to happen all at the same time. And then when all 4 of those are done, it goes to this review complete, and that building department is going to take a look at the whole workflow to decide if the permit needs to go forward or not. But again, if you only have one step in your workflow, that's all we'll create for you, right? It's totally configurable. We have a documents tab that's going to track everything that's been uploaded and then anything that gets generated. And then there is an inspections tab here. We'll come back later and we'll request an inspection. So I'm going to jump out to staff side, but I just want to turn it over. Do you guys have any questions about where we're at or what you've seen?
On the workflow, do all of them have to be complete before you can move forward? Or are you able to move forward one of the processes without the other?
Yeah, so we can set it up.
If I want to do plan review and then send out my corrections, will it change the status saying that the plan review is out for corrections when everyone else is still in plan review, such as like civil, fire?
Yeah, so that's that status. Could show that. But you'll also see there, the only one in this instance that has a start date is the first one. And then once that, and so the other reviews haven't started yet. They're not on anyone's to-do list yet. But when that one gets complete, then those next 3 will get a start date.
And so, for example, if I wanted to pull a report saying, showing what's in building review, could we move ours forward so that way it's saying, okay, they're not actually in review, they're out for corrections, but civils is still in review?
Yeah, exactly. Those statuses are all customizable. So you can have many different statuses that they're in. And then you pull that report based on those statuses that you wanted to have on your workflows.
Because one of the problems we're having now, for example, is when I do my review, say I send it out for corrections. If everyone else hasn't completed theirs, when we pull the report, it still says it's in review. But it
Right,
sounds
so
like you guys are.
the status is going to be on the review step itself.
Okay.
Now the permit will also have a status, but you, from what you're looking at, you'd report off of basically the activity status.
For the task, yeah. AKA activity, AKA task. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Which we know what we're talking about, but it says task up here. So I wanted to draw the link for Prescott Valley. So I want to take you into staff side. That was a great question. Please do keep them coming. This is what staff side view is in Citizenserve. So this is Ellie. She's the permit clerk. I'm just going to refresh her account. Now, we set up everyone's dashboard during implementation, but they're configurable. So she's got a list of metrics up at the top of her screen, and this is a great way to get work in front of you. These are all displaying information about a process. So this has permit review times. This is pending tasks by user, files open by type. Each of these segments represents, in this case, a file type, and it gives the count in the center. So if I hover over this tan one, it's business licensing. This is general, there's 10. This is permitting, there's 91. So metrics break this information out by count, but when you click on the segment, it pops up a listing of those files, and all of these are hyperlinked. So she can access each of these files, do her work here if she needs to, and when she's done, it closes down. That initial metric is still on her task list. So metrics are a great way to show work. So is a task list. And if we look at her task list, she's got 9 tasks. Most of them are overdue. So I just changed my mouse to make it bigger to easier to follow, but it also covers up the little labels that pop up. It's a minimalist display, but when you hover over an item, it pops up the label. So behind this hand, it says overdue. And if I hover over the blue one, it says due. And then the statuses are listed over here. There's no status given, and then 8, it would be pending. These are all what you can filter on. So if I wanted to say, hey, wait, I don't have a status on one, you could go into this one and you could look at it. Or if you want to say, show me the one that's due, I can click on that blue. It's just a great way to get the work in front of you that you need to see. So this is her task list here. We're going to jump into this in a minute, but I just want to point out a couple of other features on her task list. We've routed this work to her individual task list, but we can also route things to the department's task list. And we're able to take slices of that work and put it into something like this. This is called a single item metric. And this just has unassigned tasks that are inspections. The way this task list works is that you can check the box to assign it to yourself, or you can assign this work out to other users, and then it saves and it assigns them out. So if you route things to a central user to then assign things out, that's a way to do it. I'm not going to save any of those. These are reports that she can run. These are metrics that are just showing data over time. They're trend metrics over user, right? And then down below, this is the unassigned task list for the whole department. So it has every type of task in here. And one benefit of this is if you wanted to assign this inspection out, but you didn't know who had bandwidth, you could check the ellipses here and it's going to show who has work assigned. If I change this date to today, then we'll see that that Ed had a rental inspection this morning. It's got a footing inspection. So you can see how you'll see these other items appear on people's calendars. We're not going to save this one either. Now, there's one more feature on her dashboard, and that is location services. So when your staff log into Citizenserve, it's going to drop a pin for them, and it's going to show them on the map. So you'll be able to see who's logged in across your jurisdiction. And I'm located up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's so beautiful and cold and rainy. So let's go back to our task list. We're going to jump on this first application intake step on our building permit. Now, I should say for Fatima, who's here to look at the administration on the licensing side and the planners that are in the room that do planning and zoning, the functionality that we're seeing here on the permit also applies to a license application and to a planning and zoning application. So when we take in an application, whether it's a license or a zoning app or a permit, it's going to have a review process functionality just like this. So as a reviewer, you're going to get your task and you can say, okay, what does the application say? There's a little ellipses here that'll let you open the permit in a new tab. So here, Ellie gets to see just what we submitted on the portal side. This is the staff view. So it has header information, right? Permit information in red, fees in blue, dates in gray. Let's change this status to under review. This can lock down tools on the portal side. So that's a good thing about status changes. The system can also send out scripted messages at each status. I don't think we send one out at this point in the process, but we do later on. And then here's the application itself. So we have project information. It's blank. We can use a collapsible header to hide that detail. Here's occupancy type. When we're done reviewing it, we can collapse it. If we wanted to see information about this contractor, we could click the ellipses. That little ellipses is a more information button. It's going to pop up new information. And here we get to see information about this contractor. If we keep scrolling down, we see submittal documents. Now, I didn't put any of these as required in my system. Of course, on your permit applications, you're going to want to require documents, right? But if I did that in my demo, then I wouldn't be able to make comments about them. So I'm going to copy this solid waste disposal form and we're going to make a note on it back in our review tab. But we're going to do that in just a second. So hold that thought. We're at the bottom of the form and we see some fields that didn't display on the portal. We have the ability to add staff-only fields. And we have the ability to just present data on the portal like a big long disclaimer. We can hide that on the staff side so your staff don't have to scroll past that every day. So lots of configurability options. But let's talk about fees and payments on the staff side. We want to generate your fees automatically, right? We're going to load your whole fee structure in the system. Then whatever the applicant inputs is going to generate the appropriate fees on their permit. So when we got that credit card pop-up, that gave us a dollar amount that we were asked to pay. We couldn't change that. We just had to do what was system generated. But we know that there are always going to be exceptions. So if if Ellie looks at this permit and says, oh, you know what, there's no plan review fee needed for this one, she can uncheck this box. And when we recalculate, it's going to remove this $4,400 fee. And here's the recalculate button. So we can give your staff the ability to modify these on an as needed basis. And in this case, it's remove that fee. We can also allow you to change how the fees are calculated. We have two options in this system. One is estimated construction cost, the other is valuation. But all of these are ways to get your staff to be able to have the access and management of these fees that they need. Now, I'm going to put this plan review fee on, and I want to show you how to add a fee. So I'm going to click this little barcode. That recalculates the fees. It's going to put that plan review fee back. If your staff need to add a manual fee, they just come to the barcode. We can define as many fees as they need. I'm just going to use this miscellaneous fee, and I will add a $5 fee to the project. When I click save, it's going to add it to that fees table. And then below that, we have payments. So if your contractor's standing there with a $5 check, you can click this credit card icon. We'll input that it's a check. You can list the check number if you want, and we'll put in that payment amount. And this is going to log that payment in your system. So now you put the cash or you put the check in the cash drawer. We've logged the payment here in Citizenserve. We could give you a payment reconciliation report at the end of the day so that you know that what's in your drawer matches what's in Citizenserve. We could even give you an export file so that you can export to your GL system. So this is a little bit about the payment processing side and fee tracking. We've done a couple of changes here, so I'm going to hit the save button. That's going to commit my change. This also shows us a listing page. So if we had an electrical permit or a mechanical permit or a plumbing permit related to this project, those could all be listed here. So we can track all of those applications in one bucket. Let's go back to this review. We'll go ahead and make a comment here. So we have a bunch of tools up at the top of the screen. We have some in the center. I'm going to start with this Common Comments book. This is a fabulous tool. It's a book of commonly used comments. You guys supply the comments. We put them here at your fingertips so that Ellie can do she can check this box that says the following submittal documents were not provided. She can go through and she can delete out the documents that have been uploaded. And then remember, I copied that solid waste disposal form. I'm able to modify this comment right here in line. When I save it, it saves this really plan specific comment. That library is still the same, so that at your next review, you get that same baseline set of comments. Now I want to take you into the document markup tool. So this is built into our system. I'm going to pick my site plan document, and it's going to open up. To make sure I hit it with my giant finger, it has to hit the document right on top of it to open. So here is my site plan loaded into my browser-based markup tool. There's no Java that you have to run. You just have to have a recent browser. This allows your users to pull in like a stamp. You can stamp every page. You can share stamps between departments. We can make comments on these shapes, and the comments are integrated. I'll show you what that means in a second. So on this receive stamp, we're just going to say Ellie reviewed. If I can spell on Thursday PM. We have other tools available. We can add shapes. We can do measurements. Let's calculate square footage. So first, we're going to calibrate the document to this line. It says it's 280 feet. And now I can pick my area tool, and I can click in the corner of this building. And this is going to calculate out square footage. Now, that might be kind of tiny. This is calculating out at 3,900 square feet. And our applicant said that this was a 2,000 square foot project. So Ellie noticed this. She can add a comment that says, hey, this is a problem. I'm going to make this a condition of the approval of this permit. Square footage should be 3962. 3962. Now, the reason I put this this status on this comment is that the system has the ability to interpret these comments as either, hey, this is just a comment, or it's a condition, and a condition will get information out to other staff members about this message. So I've set that as a standing condition, and then I can make this smaller. Now, multiple users can get in and they can do their markup even all at the same time. Every reviewer gets their own layer of comments. You can choose whose information you want to show or hide, but you can't impact anybody else's comments, right? You can't make any changes to anybody else's layers. So I'm going to exit. Oh, sorry, was there a question?
Say where they're showing that square footage, are you able to move that so it wasn't over the top of the other text?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Oh, you mean the the comment here?
Yeah.
That is not editable, but I can do that
Okay.
if I wanted to. I can move the whole shape.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So when I exit out, do you have a question, Carmela? Carmela, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So you can go through all of your documents and do your markup. And when you're done and you close, it's going to pull those documents into your review activity. So those are the comments that we added. Notice this status right here. When I save these comments, it's going to send that data to the database, and it puts a hand on our project, not just on this review, but on our permit and on anybody else's activities. When they click on that hand, they see this message that square footage should be 3962. So can Ellie go in right now and change the permit? Yes, she can. She's in the building permit and she has edit rights, but we're going to leave that on the project. Her job is to do a completeness check. So she's going to send a notice out to the applicant to let them know that there's outstanding issues. So I've picked that send email icon. I'm going to pick the template that I want. We're going to address it to the applicant. You have external users or staff users here as well. You can do multiple. You can just type it in. It's really easy to send an email. Let me show you the preview. Blue bar at the top, heading about the information. Here's the comment that we added from the comments book, right? This information's missing. And then here's those site plan comments. So it's just pulling all of those comments into this template, and it's going to send them off to the applicant to let them know. The idea here is that the applicant is going to get this email. They can go fix their plan set and update that, or change it on the permit and update that. They can upload the missing documents. When anything happens on the portal, we want to notify staff. So Ellie will get either an email in her inbox, or she can get a task on her task list. The task can go to somebody else in the department. There are lots of ways to get it configured. Bottom line, we'll notify you that something has happened on the portal. When Ellie sees that new data, she can say, oh, look, this is great. This has been satisfied. All of these are done. We're going to leave this as is because I want to show you how other users can see it. But when everything gets fixed, she can say, hey, I'm done with my review. I'm going to say this is approved with conditions. These are all of those statuses. These have been defined for my environment, but these are the ones where you could say, pending corrections or whatever. Whatever you want it to be. But she's going to set this status on this activity and she's going to be done. That assigns that completion date automatically. And when we save, it's going to close the activity and generate the next few in the workflow. So the view now is showing us the whole workflow. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what you showed us before, that's your guys' plan review software. Do you have capabilities to use others as well?
Yeah, we integrate with Bluebeam. Or we've done Project Docs also.
What about PlanSoft?
PlanSoft, we have not done that integration.
Okay.
So what you guys use?
We don't have one currently, so we are deciding, but it seems like almost everyone is compatible with Bluebeam, some with Project Docs, and then also some with eSoft, so I was just curious.
Yeah, we just haven't been asked to do it integration with PlanSoft, so I mean, I'm sure it's just as possible.
Gotcha.
I would say that with Bluebeam, we've done multiple times, but the API with Bluebeam doesn't include pulling those comments in. Bluebeam is a powerful tool and it offers some features that we don't. But in this case, we're able to pull in those comments and Bluebeam wouldn't be able to. You also can choose on a project by project basis if you want to use Bluebeam or our markup tool.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if we use Bluebeam, it's not going to pull in the comments and auto-generate that letter?
Right, they're just going to be on the documents that come back in. We don't. Their API doesn't allow us to get at the comments themselves.
All right, so this is the route, right? We just completed our first task, so we see that completed date and our status is updated. And now we see due dates on the next 3 tasks. That means Ed, Charlotte, and then the conservation department can all start working at the same time. So I'm not going to take you through all of those, but I do want to take you and show you another reviewer. This is Ed. He's in the building. He's the building official, the inspector. He does it all. This is his task list. Here's our project, and there's that red hand that pops up. So from his task list, he can click on that condition, and he can see what it says. So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy the square footage. So he says, okay, the square footage is wrong. He can go into his activity or he can go directly into the plan. We'll go to the activity. And this is going to look a lot like what Ellie input. But Ed's activity has some custom fields here. So if your reviewers have to fill out a checklist as part of their process, we can create the checklist on their activity in Citizenserve. In this case, this is a literal checklist. Ed checks off all of the inspections that are required. These are all going to print on the permit card itself. You don't have to set up that process. We can just print out all of your required inspections, the same way every time. But a lot of jurisdictions love this flexibility of being able to print exactly on the permit card what's needed. So let's go over to the permit itself and let's update that square footage. So this valuation calculation uses square footage, and right now it's using 2,000 square feet. So if we paste in that 3962 value from that comment and we recalculate, it's going to increase our valuation amount and it's going to increase our balance due. So let's recalculate. And now that valuation calculation has increased and our balance due has increased. So let's go ahead and clear this condition. We can do that just by changing the status to satisfied. We can even just clear the status altogether. We can say Ed updated permit. And that's still going to be associated with the project. So this has been saved. This is good. When we get back to this review details, it hasn't been updated yet. It will in a second. He can also go into the markup tool. So we can go into that site plan. He's going to be the second reviewer. Ellie's information is all hidden because he's in his own layer, but he can check Ellie's name and he gets to see the data that she's added. So he can't make any changes here, right? He can't go in and edit, but if he wants to look at what she's done, he can view comments and see all the comments that she's added. And if he wants to, in fact, let's maybe make a rectangle around this existing garage. And let's go to the common comments book and we'll add some comments here. We will pick residential construction. So I'm just going to pick some comments at random from the common comments book. It's going to associate them. And now when I look at the comments here, you can see these are comments that Ed has added. He's able to edit these. And we're seeing what Ellie has added, and he has no access to change these comments. So just a little bit more about the tool. We'll go ahead and exit out. It's going to pull these comments into his review activity. Those are down below now. So now he's going to complete his task. He's just going to say it's approved and he's going to save. He's not sending out an email automatically, but the system is going to send one out because it's configured to do that in this environment. So in fact, maybe I'll just show you the documents tab. This is going to show you every document that was uploaded, the system notices that were generated. Here's Ellie's email about that incomplete application. She completed her task, the system sent an automated email. And when Ed completed his task, it sent an automated email. These are all configurable options. We don't want to, drown your constituents in email, but we do want to provide a breadcrumb trail. So I think for purposes of this demo, I want to show you that we have the ability to document your workflow processes. Your reviewers have a lot of tools. I think maybe the only tool I haven't showed you that I like to show, that I haven't shown you yet, is this map tool. You can click on the map location for this project. It drops a pin on the map. You can zoom in. If you have display layers available, we can click on display layers and you can pull in any layers from your GIS that we've integrated with. So we could say pull in the zoning layer, and that's going to apply that to the map. And you can have attributes available here if you want. So it's just another feature of the system. It's available to you. Instead of going through the rest of these review activities, I want to go ahead and pretend that everything is good. We're going to go ahead and approve this. We'll give it a completion date of today. We're just going to approve the whole route. It's going to complete all those activities. And then I want to show you how we can issue this permit. So the first thing we'll do is we'll say it's approved. That puts in an approval date, and the system is going to send an email to the applicant saying, hey, you're approved, but you owe us $17,000. Go to the portal and pay, and then we can issue your permit. But I also want to show you what happens if a user tries to do something out of order. So if I come in and I try to generate this permit card, instead of seeing my permit, I'm getting a message that says, hey, there's a balance due. Are you sure you want to do this? This is an example of a programmatic condition. And we can write these conditions based on your business rules, right? It's a SQL script that runs, and it'll pull up a flag at this step in time if we meet that condition, like there being a balance due. So here, can exit out of this, right? This is just a reminder to not go down this path. It could also be set up as a stop to keep someone from going down that path. Do you guys want to see another portal payment, or do you want me to just take an over-the-counter payment?
Over the counter.
All right, so then if your constituent comes in with, say, a trolley full of pennies, you're going to log that payment type, right? That would be cash. Let's pretend that they maybe bring us an American Express card. We can type in American Express, but we're not going to track any credit card details in Citizenserve because we're PCI compliant. You're going to swipe that card like you do over the counter, and we're going to log that payment amount here. $17,585.22. So when I add this payment in, it's going to zero out our balance. And now let's go ahead and change our status to issued. That puts in our issue date and our expiration date. Now, if you're processing, 25, 30 permits a day, you don't want to change the status manually. You can say, no, I just want to go and issue the permit. That permit issuance can actually change the status and issue, apply the issue date and expiration date. If you're only doing one of these a week, then it doesn't matter. You don't need to speed up the process that much. We'll work with you during implementation to figure out what shortcuts you need to make your work life easy. I'll go ahead and I will issue this permit. And this time we're not going to pull up that condition. So we'll pick the permit card and we'll generate. And this is what our permit card looks like in Citizenserve in my environment. This is done through HTML. So we'll make it look like however you want. There's also an on-the-fly editor, and you'll get this on most of the documents that get generated in Citizenserve. So this is the expiration date. So we can put expiration there. If we want, we can make this, you know, red, whatever. We have a full HTML editor here. If you want the change made to the template itself, we can show you how to do that, or you can submit that as a support request. But when I save this change, it saves that color change, saves expiration. And then when I save the document, it's going to put it on the Documents tab. Now, it's also available on the portal side. So I'm going to take us out into the portal. I'm going to log out, though, and we'll log back in. This is just one more pathway. Oh, please.
I have one question about the issuance with the payment. Right now, we're having a problem with if the permit is not in the ready to issue status and someone takes a payment, it still issues the permit on paper, but it doesn't change status in the computer. So when people call for inspections, it's telling them they don't have a valid permit. So is there a way to, I guess, fail-proof that so that that doesn't happen? It sounds like that's kind of what you were saying, that you would have, that you can't take a payment unless it's in the correct status.
We can lock that down.
Yeah. And we do that doing what's called programmatic conditions. There are about 12 different places in the system where we can interject custom SQL code to check anything, produce warnings, stops, change other things that are out there. And that's how we do those. So there's a lot of flexibility in how those are set up.
But it sounds like if it's applied and somebody pays on the portal, you want that payment process to automatically transition that permit into an issued status so that then they can start requesting.
Or not allowing them to make the payment until it is in the correct status.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yes.
We can control the tools that are available by status too. So we can only make that payment option available if it's in that correct status. All right, well, we're issued now, and we're looking on the portal. Before we were in the under review tab, but I've just switched us over to the issued tab. Here's our Prescott Valley project with zero balance due. This is where your constituent can come and see the status of their project. So at any point. So on the permit tab, we can see that that square footage got updated. If we go over to the reviews tab, this is going to show all of the statuses of their these activities. We've got some links here. So when I click on them, I get to see the comments that are available from these different users. On the documents tab, we're even going to have a little link underneath the site plan so that your constituents can see that markup tool. So they'll get to see all of the stuff that's been added. So if I click a shape here, it's going to filter to the comments. It's just a great way to be transparent with your constituents. And then finally, there's this inspections tab. It's blank, so let's fix that. Let's go ahead and request an inspection here. Now I'm logged into the system. I'm on my project, and now I'm requesting an inspection. So I don't have to fill in my name, who I am, or what project this is. But if you need to know who's going to be the person on site, or some, what's your phone number of the person that will be here, we can add those as custom fields, right? You can have any custom fields that you want. So we'll pick the inspection type that we want, and then we'll pick the desired date. Now it's Thursday, it's the last week of September. So I only have one day available. I'm going to push forward to October so you can see inspections aren't available on Fridays because they've been blocked out on the setup of this portal. So you can manage which days of the week you allow inspections. You can have a cutoff time. You can do a max number of inspections per day. I am going to go back and pick the 28th, that's today. And then we'll say PM because, 3 o'clock. We don't do same day cutoffs until 5 o'clock. And I've only been snagged by that once doing a demo. It's like 5:01 and I was requesting a demo. But still, we'll put this one in. It's going to route the submit to the town. It's going to put an entry on our project, and then we can go into staff side. But any questions about how to do a request through the portal?
When they put those in, can it filter the inspections to the correct inspector per the address.
So do you have, so you're saying like do you do that by districts or zones, or how do you parse that out?
Yeah, they each have an area that they work in, and so can you mark like a zone in on the map, and if the address falls within that, it automatically routes the inspection to the correct person?
Right. Do you guys have those zones someplace like in a GIS? In your GIS, do you have those zones?
Not currently, no.
Yeah, if you were to do those zones in your GIS, we could bring those in as an attribute and make those. We do that for Yavapai as an example, but we have to have a source for that.
That makes sense.
All right, well, let's go claim this and route it. Sorry, was there another question?
No.
Oh, am I hearing things? Okay, I'm hearing voices in my head. That's what that was all about.
Again.
So I know it happens. If they would just stop talking. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to take you to the inspections tab on our project, right? We're logged in as Ed. So you can see this footing inspection is here, but it hasn't been assigned out. So I want to show you his homepage so I can show you how another way we can route things. The tasks have gone to our user's task list, but this is an example of an activity being routed to the department queue. So we're going to see it down at the bottom under the unassigned task list. And if we scroll all the way down, it's this blue guy right here. It's due today. So Ed can say, I'm going to take this, right? It's going to put his name in. He can click this ellipses. It'll show him, who else has availability this day. But we'll just go ahead and save this activity here. When I save it, it's going to move the task from the department's queue into his calendar. So here is his calendar. Let's see, here is our little inspection. So we've had a lot of inspection activity today, right? We've got a couple that are, another one that's scheduled, one that's pending, this one that just came through as a request, and then we had one that was failed. So we can filter those based on our filter bars above. But what Ed is going to do is he's going to get in the truck with his iPad and he's going to go out on site. So let's mimic that. I have got an iPad Pro in my hands, and I happen to have this little emulator here that will show you how the system works on an iPad.
Does it have to be an iPad, or can it be any tablet?
It can be any device in the browser. Yep.
So this is Safari on my iPad Pro, but it works with any browser. We will just do a refresh really quick. And then scrolling down, I'm going to click on the footing inspection for our Prescott Valley project. So here we are in the field. Ed's going to walk around the inspection site. He can take photos and attach photos. So let's go ahead and do that. I have a camera here, but because I'm at my desk, if I use the camera on my iPad, it's just going to take a picture of my location, right? That's not what we need for this footing inspection. Your inspectors can take photos with their device, and they can go and click that little paper clip, and they can select files from their photo library as well. So
I have one quick question. Does this have offline capabilities if they're not in a service area?
So if you open up an inspection when you're in service, we're going to cache different things in the browser and allow you to, when you get back to service, save it.
So if they were to open it up in a service area and do all their work out of a service area, when they come back into service, they have to just hit save and it'll automatically save?
Yeah. But you have to open up, multiples while you're in service in different tabs. We're also in the process of working on a kind of a similar app, but that would allow an easier way for them to download all their inspections for the day. It'll be a web app, it'll be a web-based application still. But we got that in development now. So it just make that process of downloading all your inspections for the day easier.
Engineering service.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So we just pulled this footing photograph out of my photo library. So we're going to save that. It's going to go to the Documents tab. And now I'm going to go to the Common Comments book. So Ed can check off any of the comments that apply from the comments book. And these are all footing comments. We've got, you know, any type of comments defined, any inspection comments, they'd be grouped together. So what we're looking at are footing comments. So he'll go through and he'll check off all the issues that he finds on the list. And if he gets to the bottom, but he has more to say, he can just click the Add Comment button. And when we're here, it pops up the keypad for us so that we can click and tap this out on the glass keyboard. But we want to use all the features that are available. So I could also do this. This is a voice to text comment from Ed's iPad. And then we can save. I'm going to pull all those comments into this view. This is also makes it available for us to include them in our inspection report. So he's done with his inspection, right? I can give it a status of fail. That puts in the completion date. If I click save right now, it's going to send out an automated email. But if the inspector wants to see what it looks like or make changes, he can select the envelope template or the envelope icon, and he can pick the email template for inspection report. We can address it to the applicant or the subcontractor. We can attach photos. And then if you want to see a preview, this is what that inspection report looks like. So it's got the attachment up at the top, our inspection report with all those comments, town logo at the bottom. So we can send this off. So when I save this, oh, go ahead.
If you just click save, does it send it to all of the people on there? Or does it pop up and have you select them also?
So when you hit save automatically, it's going to send it to the users that are indicated. If you want, the contacts that have been added to your project can be added as recipients to these emails. But in my environment, it's not set up that way. So if you wanted to include more than one person automatically, it can be set up to do that. Was that what you were asking, or did I miss?
No, I think that answered it.
Okay. So the whole idea is we just completed this inspection. We notified the applicant. They're going to go and fix the issues with the footing inspection, and then they'll re-request through the portal. If you want to charge them for that, that can be built into the process. It can automatically apply. And we can keep contractors from requesting inspections if there's a balance due. So let's head back to the office. Let's go get back into Ed's account here. So Ed got kicked out, right? Because we're single sign-on or we're subscription based. So he went out on his iPad and now he's coming back to the desktop. But we can open up this inspection activity or this project. So the whole idea is that you're going to do all of your required inspections. When they're all done, you're going to want to close out this permit. So let's go to that permit and I'll show you how we do that. For us, it's just a status change to closed or finalized. That puts in a close date, and then we can go ahead and generate a certificate of occupancy. And this is what our certificate looks like in this environment. But again, this is just an HTML template. We can make it look however you'd like it to. I will save this. It's going to save it to the Documents tab. It's going to be available out on the portal. And we've just gone through the life cycle of this permit. So I know we want to talk about planning and zoning and licensing and code enforcement. I think what I'll do, since we just went on a deep dive into planning and zoning, I'm going to pull up another environment. I want to show you how another environment is using planning and zoning. It's going to take me just a second to get in there. So if you have questions for us, please feel free.
I do have one question. So does a program like yours, does it give us the ability to say at the end of the month or end of the year, go in and say, okay, Ed made 10,000 inspections over that last year, or the LE did so many plan reviews? Does it give you that reporting capability?
Yeah, that'd be a report that we'd write for you. When you ask us to write a report, like I said earlier, the people that do our implementations also do support. We don't go through a report writer. Our people all know SQL, and so any report that you ask for with all the subtotals and the headings and the columns and the subtotals, all that, our people do using Microsoft SQL scripts, which is the most flexible that you have to report against a Microsoft SQL database. So if there's a report you want, all you got to do is ask for that through support, and we'll get it to you.
And I'm also running some standard reports. So this is an example of an out-of-the-box report called Completed Activities by Type and User. So this shows just the count of all of the application reviews that Ed has done, and all the footing inspections, and all the licensing inspections. So we offer lots of out-of-the-box, but we absolutely want you to request the reports that are specific to helping you get your job done. See if I can get in here. So we're going to go take a little trip to Spanish Fork. They have used this for planning and zoning for a long time. And I'm in our test environment so that I don't muck around in their real production environment. Oh, this was not the right one. Do one more. Darn it. Sorry, if you have an extra zero in there, it throws everything off. So I'm looking for a site plan that was opened in 2016. It was the 11th site plan of that year. I'm using the quick search tool. And again, this is in my test environment, so it's a little bit slow. But now it's opening up this giant application. And generally, I try to have this done before we ever start the demo, so you don't have to watch the pages load in my test environment. But we're just going to have to wing this, right? Because we're here. So this is what this site plan looks like in this environment. So this is the Canyon Creek project. It's a 9-phase project. So they had 9 different site plan reviews on this one. Their application has, a couple of questions about the project, a bunch of contact fields, a bunch of document uploads, and then a couple more projects. So it's a pretty simple application. Their fees are at the bottom. What gets complicated with planning and zoning is the review process. And I just got some clarification in our implementation director, buddy Bert, heard me say that, and he says, planning really isn't that complicated. He says it goes through an intake process, and then sometimes projects need to go through an internal review, so you could just add a review route for that. And then when it's done with that internal review, maybe it needs to go to a board hearing, so you just add a workflow for that. In this case, this has gone through 9 different review routes for each phase of the project. And each of those phases is listed here in a whole review route. So you get to see all the steps, the departments that were responsible, the users that did work, the statuses, the completion dates, all of that you get overview. One of the things that they do is they take their projects to a hearing meeting. That is in their initial site plan review. So they send it to their development review committee. And when they go to meeting with all of their projects for that date, they just take the notes right in here. So the outcome of this was that it was approved as long as the following conditions were met. I just want to point out the third one is that a certificate of occupancy not be issued until Commerce Way is paved. So they log all of their activities. They can take this to their committee, and we also can support you in generating your documents, right? So I'm taking you to their documents tab. We're going to filter to just look at emails. All of these red line memos, these are all generated using a template. So if I open up this very first one at the beginning of the project, this is an example of pulling all of the reviewer comments into one template, and it puts it up here at the top of my page. So this is that email that gets sent out. So it's got, 2 users from community development, Tom from the electric department, 3 engineering users, and then the fire department. When all of those reviews are done, they generate this email. It gets sent out. They also generate an approval letter. So this is what came out of that development review committee meeting. So if we open up this guy, this application approval, this is a template that pulls in those comments, right? This one says that certificate of occupancy not be issued until Commerce Way is paved. So we can help you pull your documents, your comments into these letters to send them out. We can also help you identify the correct users to notify. Like if you have to notify people with a proximity report, taking us back into Ed's account. This is just a standard out of the box template. The default is 300 feet, but if we do our address today, is it 990 Visalia? That's what we did. If I put in that address, the automatic default is map, but we have different options here that I'll show. So the whole idea is that this is going to drop a pin and it's going to pull in anybody in 300 feet of that initial radius. And if you notice, we don't have some pins here. It's because I haven't created those property records in this demo environment. But all of these pins are surrounding our starting address in the system. So you can export this if you want. But we can give you a listing too. If we put it in report viewer, it's going to run it into like an Excel sheet. You can export it to Excel and make this part of your mass merge. Or you can give us the output of that mass merge and we can create a template for you. We can also show you how to do that. In this case, let's feed this data into this abutter notice. This is going to send out this notice to all of these different property owners. What the system can also do is it can place a copy of each of these letters in with that property record. So if you ever get the call from the Dermont Family Trust and they're really ticked because they never got notified about this project, you can say, well, we sent you this letter on September 28th and we sent it here. And I can say, oh, we moved, like, oh, that was my bad. But you'll have a history of all of this on that parcel record. So I think that I've covered all the bases. If you notice, that project that we were looking through in Spanish Fork was a permit project, right? So all of the functionality that we used in the building permit process would apply to that planning and zoning process as well. Do you have questions about other things that you're doing in Prescott Valley with planning and zoning that we haven't maybe addressed?
So the program will draw information from our GIS and update. They update every time there's update once a month. Or
we'll do it. How often do you bring in the county's information into your guys' GIS? Does anyone know?
Is it?
That would be a question for Casey.
Like weekly or something?
No.
Monthly?
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it up to nightly.
I believe it's once a month.
Yeah.
I'm not positive of that, but I believe it's once a month.
Yeah, we can pull up from your GIS nightly.
Wow.
Okay. Well, but the counties would come to ours and ours would go to them, so same difference.
That's when we have the problems with the parcels. The owner's not there yet.
Right.
Well, that's because it's not working. GIS is not working in ours.
So any other questions about planning and zoning before we start on licensing or code enforcement?
Could you show us how we will schedule like public hearings and do notifications and things like that?
Let's see, what do I have? I think I just have a new report. I need to go into my different user here. This is Charlotte. She is in the planning and zoning department. So we don't have a scheduler in here, but I do have searching for a report here that Buddy just created for me. System user. You know what? I think that this might be something that's on my wish list. So let's do this. What we can do when you get a project in for planning and zoning, all of these are applications like this is a single family home. I'm looking for something that has a that'll allow me to put in an extra workflow route. Licenses. So this zoning permit, this might let me do it. I'll have to see if it's got one. When you create a workflow route and you add it to a project, oh, these already have a bunch of workflows. So this is an example of a board meeting workflow that's been added. So if you have some sort of a hearing or something, we can create a workflow that has steps in it so that you can do the items leading up to those steps. And it can have like a decision point included that happens after that meeting completes. But the way that this workflow works is you can just add the route. And we can pick, say, this board meeting step. You get to put in the date of that meeting. So if it's the third Thursday of the month, you're not going to pick a date in the past. I mean, if you need 3 weeks of notification, maybe this gets bumped to November, but you pick whichever date works. And then the rest of the dates are going to be dependent on that. So we're just going to add this new route so you can see it. So sorry. So I've just added this second route. It's actually this one with all of our later dates here. So it has that zoning board meeting getting scheduled. And then before that, you have to get the staff report ready. So that's an activity that's going to be on Charlotte's desktop. And then they have to send a memo for the newspaper. So that's another task that's been laid out. These, again, are just sample ideas for the types of tasks that might be related to your planning and zoning. We would work with you during implementation to actually map out your processes and give you a workflow that makes sense for you.
Okay.
And then we can create an agenda report for you. I don't have one in the system. I'll have to ask Buddy. I swear he was going to do that for me. And then it would just call in all of the projects that were assigned to this zoning board meeting on this date. Create that agenda. If you need to gather other data for the packet, that could happen in the staff report portion. Any other questions about this? Did I miss anything?
Nope.
I had a question about when it comes to taking payments. Are we able to do like a late fee as a percentage?
Like,
Yeah. Are you
yeah.
like for business licensing? Do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. So are you thinking specifically in renewals where you're going to have you're going to send out a note saying your license has expired or it's about to expire, you need to renew it, and then they're late to fill out that renewal process?
Yes.
Pay their fees. Yeah. We can set that up in the configuration of the renewal to automatically apply late fees, at 30 days or at, 60 days or however. The system can do that automatically. We can also give you a manual option to check a box and apply it to just that one license.
Okay.
It makes sense to have it as part of the process, so it affects all of the licenses in that category.
Okay. And is the system also able to generate like an invoice? There are some instances where certain businesses ask for us to send them an invoice. Is the system able to generate one?
That's just a standard type of a report that would be associated with that file.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm happy to switch gears. We can talk about the licensing process. Licensing is very similar to the permitting process, but where a permit ends and it closes out, a license has to go through a renewal process, or ideally it goes through a renewal process. So if we take everything that we've learned about the permitting process and stick it in our back pocket as that still applies to a license, we can pick up this discussion at that renewal process. Like it's been a year and we're ready to kick off renewals for our license types. We want to give you a bucket of renewals to look at, and we do that in a metric. So this is the rental renewal status. There's 5. And these give our different statuses. So 4 are complete. If you click on the metric, you see those. 1 has been sent. So it's waiting for the business owner, the landlord, to submit this renewal to us. If we look at just the regular business licenses, these are all in one bucket. We can separate them out or group them together however you like it. This one has a different category. There's one that's been submitted by the business owner that's waiting for us to work. So this is how you can manage those renewals as they come in, but how do you generate the process in the beginning? That you actually do through a process under the reports. So we're going to write a renewal process for you for every license type. So we have contractor license renewals, business license renewals, a pet license renewal, and our rental registrations. I will show you this business license renewal. This is going to pull up everybody in 2023 that doesn't have an email on the system. We have an email option that's going to go out to the people that do have an email. So when I run this one, it's going to pull it into this letter. If I show it on a regular piece of paper, it will shrink it down and make it more legible. The whole idea is that this renewal can look however you want it to look. But generating this letter is going to show you who the recipients are, and it's going to show you the fees. We're going to make sure everything looks right? We ran it in preview mode. This is reading from a process that's set up on each business license type. So business licenses have their own renewal process. Rental registrations can have their own configuration settings. But you get to dictate if you want the business owner to refill out certain fields on their renewal, if you want them to pay fees, if you need them to re-upload data, if you want to add notes to the account. All of that gets configured in our system, and running this report runs that process. So when you're good with this one, you would go back and run it in regular mode and it would process this. You could print these out and send them. The other way to do it is to send it through an email. So we'll do this for 2023. We'll see if I have anybody in this bucket. I don't. Let's go forward in time. Let's go see who we've got for 2024. Here we go. So now we've got a bunch of emails that'll go out. Smith Brothers Construction, the Pizza Palace. The business owner will get this email. They'll be able to click on this link and they'll come to the portal and they'll fill out that renewal process. So we work with you to make sure that your business license renewal is configured the way you want it to. You kick off the process to notify your business owners. They get the message and it'll take them back to the portal if they click on this link. So we can go process one of these. I'm logged in. Let's go into licensing here. And then there's a renew your license option. This is going to list for your business owners all the licenses that they have available. So let's do this, my Mediterranean Palace, right? Here is a restaurant renewal. If I scroll down, the system is going to show me anything that's required that needs to be filled in, but I can ignore everything. If I go down to the bottom and I try to submit my long application here. Oh, I see this one. I see this one. I'm going to report by FTEs. Let's say we have 10 employees. When I submit, if I'm missing anything, it will tell me. But ta-da, it took me to the payment processor where it wants to take my payment for this renewal. So Alejandro, you just said, can we invoice? They can just close this down if they prefer, or we can work with you on another process to notify them that they have an invoice due. In this case, I'm going to pay for this. Fat fingered a key. Let me try that again. And now I'm ready to pay for my renewal. So when we go back into Thomas's account in the business licensing department, we'll close our report down. Back on his homepage, his metric is going to update, right? We just submitted our license renewal. He's able to collect that. Here's that Mrs. Mediterranean Palace here. He can take a look at this. Now, this is a good question for you guys. Do you have to do a review at this point, or do you just issue that license, that renewal?
When it's a renewal, we just issue it. We don't go through another zoning inspection or anything.
Perfect. So the system can be set up as part of that configuration that when that payment comes through, it notifies the applicant or the business owner, you're approved, and it can send them their certificate. In this case, this is a good chance for me to show you what this license looks like. There's a status for the license itself, but when we put it through the renewal process, it assigns it a renewal status, and you get to see what statuses are listed in the dates by clicking this ellipses. So this period started in March. This initial renewal was sent on August 16th. We just submitted it as the business owner today. And when we complete it, it's going to add today's date here as well. And all we have to do to complete it is to generate that license. So I'll pick, or that renewal. So I'll pick that license certificate and I'll generate. It's going to update my dates, right? Now it expires next year. When I save this, it saves it to the Documents tab. It makes it available on the portal. But this is how licensing renewals work. Are there any questions about this? Other parts of your process that we haven't covered? Oh, the invoicing. I wonder if I have an invoice. Really, to us, that's just a letter template. So you would give us the format and we would build it into the system. I am not sure that I have a letter template for an invoice. Well, I have a zero balance too. So that's, yep, I have no invoices here, sorry. But we can do it. Any other questions about licensing?
I do have a question about, this is kind of off topic, but do you guys do your licenses for users on Citizenserve by, like, do you have unlimited users or do we have to buy licenses for people?
It's a per name, user prescription, but so it's per user on the staff side.
You guys also have like a cheaper version for people who need like read-only?
Yeah, we can do a read-only account, and then you can choose. You're still going to pay the same amount for that, but we can set it up so multiple people can be logged in at the same time. Whereas, like on a account that can do activities, if you were sitting at your desktop and you picked up your phone and logged in, it's going to log you out of your desktop.
So we can have one read-only account that's shared by everyone who needs to pull reports or just view things.
Yeah, and you could have different accounts that can see different things. You could have one that sees everything, or you could have one that just sees permits. So they'd be different accounts, but they can have different profiles if you want.
Because we have finance that will need to have access to reports, and customer accounts that would need to have access to reports.
You said customer accounts that would need to have access to reports.
Customer accounts, yeah, they set the water meters. So once the building permit is issued for a new building, they would need to communicate. There's a report that automatically goes to them currently that tells them what permits are issued that need meters, and then they schedule it with our third party Jacobs to set the meters.
Yeah, we could. That's something they could either do that through a read only, or that would be like an email that we would automatically generate and send out to them when that hits a certain status.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, well, did we want to switch gears and talk about code enforcement?
Sure.
So are you guys reactive or proactive in your code enforcement?
Reactive.
Okay, so then maybe we'll start out on the portal. Your constituents can come to the portal and they can submit complaints. I'm logged into the system right now, but we can allow anonymous. In this case, I'm logged in, so you're going to know who I am. But I can say, graffiti on fence in neighborhood. We can define as many types as you need. I have a code enforcement type and a vacation rental, but if you wanted your separate violations listed here, we could do that. There's lots of ways for setup. And then you can put in the address. So let's do something on tap. Your constituents can use this to find an address. Again, this is going out to our parcel database. It's going to pull up any of the addresses that match, and I can pick the address that I want. And then if you notice, we got some pop-ups for some additional fields. So this is just another form type. We can collect as much data as you need from this constituent. So this is just an additional details field. So they can type this in. And then they're allowed to attach photos. So if we want to, let's go into code. Let's get a picture of graffiti. And then we can submit. So this is going to send it off to the town. I don't have any fancy conditions set, but if you need to track if there's already a code case opened at this address, we can track that. Casey, did you raise your hand? Do you have a question?
Yes. Do you guys integrate with any CRM systems?
Yeah. Do you guys like, what do you use? Like, which one do you guys use?
We use Rock Solid.
Oh yeah, we've done that integration before. And then we'll just pull the code enforcement cases out of that, put them into Citizenserve, and then when they hit a certain status, we can send them back into there.
Great, thank you.
Let's go in and we'll see how this is routed. So I'm going to go into Brandon's account. I'm going to refresh. This is going to put this on his task list. This is a good time for me to show you, he's got metrics up here, but if he cares about having his task list first, he can just configure his own dashboard. So this is the order to display my items section. He can take those chart metrics and move them down below his tasks. When you save that, it just refreshes his home page. So it's super easy to get these dashboards set up the way you want. And here at the bottom, we can see this graffiti on a fence in my neighbor at 920 Taft. So this is how they get routed. He can come in and he can do work, but I haven't shown you how you can create a case over the counter or an application. So if his phone rings and it's a constituent complaining about a neighbor, he can go to code case under the create menu. You're only going to see the file types that you can create. So he has access to create all these types. He's going to pick a code case. And it's a constituent who's complaining that the neighbor has junk vehicles parked out front and the yard is overgrown. He's reported this one before, right? So you can type whatever you want in that complaint description, and then we'll set a type. If you notice, we didn't see liens on the portal side, so you can have internal and external types. We'll pick code enforcement. And then when he says, so what's your neighbor's address? The constituent says, oh gosh, I don't know, but I'm located at 950 Stratford and she's my next door neighbor. So we can type in 950 Stratford and then we can go to we'll just find this address. We can go to the map. When we go into that map report, it's going to drop a pin where we are. We can zoom in. We can say, is it your neighbor on the right or the left? And she says, oh, she's just on my right. So we can drag the pin. That updates our addressing based on the parcel data. And when we save, it's going to pull in that new property ownership data in. And that actually is visible here. The system will remember what your settings are. So I had it hidden before, but that pulls in that property ownership data on this code case. So here, if you want to track how it's received, you can say, oh, this was a phone call. The category was maybe weeds. And if the complainant says, hey, I'd like to be notified, you can add them as a complainant. So in this dropdown, we're going to see the property owner, but we want to add a new constituent. So we're going to hit add contact. And she says it's Ginny with a G. So we can type in Ginny. And when we search, we want to search the database to make sure we don't add duplicate contacts, right? So we come up with one Ginny who lives at 950 Stratford. So we know this is the right user. So we can pull her into the account. And now in this system, this is going to go ahead and add an inspection activity for me. For Brandon. So I'm just going to add a start date to that. And when I save, it's going to create the code case. So we can add as many custom fields to this as you want. It doesn't have to take a long time to fill this out. You don't have to teach the world how to do it like I'm showing you how to do it. This is what you get when you save the file. You have a file tab with all of that data on it. On the context tab, it's going to list the constituent that we've added. So key notes, if there's a folder here, that means that this user has been involved in other files in your system. So when you click on it, it's going to pull up a listing of everything that they've ever submitted. And we can see that she is a frequent code complainer or reporter, right? So you're going to see full history here. And she's not a crazy old lady. She's just my test user. Poor Ginny. You can also look at the property history tab and it's going to show you everything that's happened at this property. So you have access to both of these, no matter what system you're in, whether you're looking at a permit or a license or a code case. And was there a question?
Is there a workflow on this?
There can be. There isn't on this one. This just creates an activity because you want your code officer to go out and see. But then if you decide, boy, this needs to be abated, then they can add a workflow that has those activities with it. Do you guys add a
So this-
workflow automatically?
This will be like routed onto their tasks.
Exactly. Yeah, if we go back to his homepage, he's going to have a task for this. This guy. That's that inspection that we assigned him. So because code is going to, it's going to go in a different direction every time, right? There's no predicting if the homeowner is going to fix it this time or if they're not going to respond. So we don't add a work.
So the way that our code enforcement works now is that we get a case, we submit it, we send a first notice of violation, and on that postcard it says that they have 10 days to comply. So the system automatically schedules an inspection for 10 days. They go out, it's still in violation, they result that, and then it automatically schedules a 30-day. We send a final NOV stating 30 days with compliance. They go back out on that inspection that was pre-scheduled for 30 days, is still in violation. We send a citation, and then we have a separate citation workflow.
Yeah, the system can do that. The system can do that. But it starts with that first inspection, right? Because Ginny calls and she's complaining about her neighbor, and if we show up and everything looks pristine, case closed, we don't go any further.
Right.
But if we come, if Brandon shows up and sure enough he sees violations, he can go in and he can add violations and he can generate that violation notice. So let's go ahead and add those.
Okay.
So if we pick, say, abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or inoperable vehicle, it's going to pull that code data in. We can add a comment if we want, must remove vehicle from street, the return visit. You can spell it right if you're into that. So we'll put a comment in there. You don't have to do this because you have short and full description in this code detail. We'll import your code description so that it displays the way you want. But there's space on my letter for this comment, so that's why I'm filling it in. I'm going to pick a follow-up date from this. We can also, if you want it in a workflow, you wouldn't have to schedule a follow-up date, and I'll sure to show you both. If I pick a follow-up date here, like 10 days from today is going to be what? Monday the 9th, just guesstimating here. We can just put in that future date. That is going to generate a follow-up activity from the system. And there's a second violation. So I'm going to use the save and add another button. The system confirms, do you really want me to schedule a follow-up? I'll say yes. It puts that task on my list. And then it allows me to add a second violation for, how about grass? Must mow. Again, I'm just populating the letter, so you don't have to have this. Now, these can have different follow-up dates, right? If I want to say that I'm going to come back on Monday because it's a fire hazard in California, right, or in Arizona, you can have a different date. So now I'm going to hit save. It's going to add those two violations. This is prompting for a second follow-up activity because it's on a different date. And now in this case, I can generate that notice of violation. Now I'm going to put this in a follow-up required status before I generate. But let's go ahead and send this mail. Pick my notice. This has a certified mail number. Oh, you know what? Take any photos. So since I'm on my laptop here, I'm going to just pull in some photos. But we want to document all of this stuff. So your code officer can take pictures with their device, or they can just import them like this from their computer. Here is an abandoned vehicle, and there's some overgrown weeds. When we add these to the system, because we have our violations in there already, we can associate the violation. I don't have a description on my grass. That's I just added a new one, so that's going to be a little bit text light, but that's okay. So we now associated those photos with those violations, and then when we generate our letter, it asks if we want to include those photos. It detects them on the file, so we can pull those in. And then the certified mail number is just an example of a letter variable. So if you don't use that, you don't have to, but this is an example of you being able to add that data right when you generate the letter. And when we click generate, it's going to pull all of our data into this template. So our certified mailing number is at the top. Here are 2 open violations. This, of course, is an HTML template, so we'll build yours to include whatever language you need. It has his signature and then our 2 photos. So you can print this out and post it on site, or you can, take it back to the office and generate it, mail it out. When I save, it's going to complete that activity and it takes me to the Documents tab. But maybe you decide at this point that you're going to add a route. So I'm going to click Add Route, and it's going to display, we just built this for a demo that we did last week. This is the route that they prefer for their notice of order and abatement, right? That's what they send out instead of a notice of violation. So you can have a route. In this case, this has a reinspection activity already built in. We would build the route based on your workflow, right? Based on your actual work processes. But yes, the system can do it. Go ahead and all of these are going to be based on completing this task. So I think I'm just going to save this one, and we can show you on the Activities tab what we've got. These re-inspections we just added automatically based on the follow-up date, and then here are that route that gets added. So in my general demo, I go out on a re-inspection and I generate a citation notice. I know that you have a whole workflow that you go through, but I wonder if you have questions about what you've seen so far, and do we want to direct those directly to your processes instead of me showing you my generic demo?
Well, one question I have is we like to include the case notes with when they go to hearing to provide to the hearing officer. Where would you print out all the comments?
So we have a couple ways. We've got a file summary report that you can run. And generally, if you have more activities and more comments, you get more data. Oh, Ray, Buddy built us a thing to pull in our photos.
Nice.
So let's see what we haven't seen this since Buddy created it. Thank you, Buddy. So this is an example of a pretty out of the box file summary report that now includes some photos on the second page. If you need it in a different format, you just send that as a submit a support request, right? This is just our generic, what it could be. So this has file information, the contacts here, the inspection history. There's only one completed. This review date is included in here. It's status of pending. Those 2 violations get listed. And then we have our documents. And then these are those pictures of those images. So.
Okay. Nice.
I have a question about code enforcers' daily tasks. Aside from just having a big list of tasks on their computer screen or their tablet, is there a report that they could generate with like all of my properties for the day, or to build a route, for example? Not a route in the system, but like a physical route of which property they're going to go to first.
Yeah, so you can see all of your tasks on a map. And we can write a today's task routing report. I don't have that in code inspection. I do for building. So if I take you back to Ed, I can show you an example of what this report would look like. We just give you a report. I think it's here. Go to today. This one just gives you a link to Google Maps. So it has all of the day's inspections. You click on driving directions, it pops all of those addresses into Google Maps. And then you can say, I want to move them around. This has a starting and an ending date, say like of City Hall. But if you wanted to, make changes here, you could do that, add a destination. Oh no, it's whatever. I'm gonna get some lunch. Pop that in there. Hopefully you've got more options than McDonald's, but. And this is just leveraging Google Maps, right? So I have just reviewed through 4 of our modules in the past hour and 50 minutes. It's a great time for questions. It's also a great time if you need to take a break.
I'm not sure if Fatima asked this earlier, but you guys integrate with Laserfish?
Yep, we've done that with many, many of our customers.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I do have a question about, and Casey, this might kind of be for you. With Rock Solid, if they have all the capability in here, would we need to keep Rock Solid?
Well, we use Rock Solid for more than just code enforcement.
Yeah, that's what we usually see too.
Okay. So we could either use, if somebody does it through Rock Solid, it would integrate into this, but we could also just use it to create it from here also.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think the thought is not to have people have too many options where they're getting confused or whatever on how to put stuff in, but definitely back end, obviously, you guys would use this, and you could, if somebody called or whatever, I assume you could put it in through this instead of Rock Solid if you want. I mean, Rock Solid is just obviously the easiest thing for us to use at this present time for somebody on a mobile device or on, they're on our website on that particular page or whatever where they can put stuff in. So we're just, we don't want to make it too complicated for them or give them too many choices for putting stuff in, I guess. But
Yeah.
we can talk.
And
We can talk about all that.
Yeah, we could turn off the ability on the portal to enter code enforcement violation requests too, so it's not there. Or we could have a link on our portal over to Rock Solid also.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we can talk about. I don't have a problem having both options, but I don't know that Gilbert would necessarily want us to confuse people with too many options.
Sure. Is this also, is there a public works module?
So we can do like permits for public works. Do they have their own permits that they do?
Yeah, I think we do right of way permits.
Yeah. Yeah, and we do that for Yavapai. We work with ROW up there, so we could do those types of permits.
Has Public Works gotten in touch with you guys about, do you guys do asset management and work orders?
We do. We can do some rudimentary work orders, but we don't track assets. We just
Okay. All
track
right.
property. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And there's really, I've talked to many people. I've never seen any integration needs between their asset management system and Citizenserve.
Is there anything that we haven't asked that you think we might have asked?
Should have asked.
Or something that you might think is important to discuss?
No, I think we could talk about like our implementation process, kind of how that works with you guys.
Oh yeah, Carmela, did you ask yet like how long the implementation process is? I didn't hear.
No, I didn't ask that.
Yeah, why don't you walk us through that?
Yeah, so in terms of how long, I mean, I could give you guys are probably, I think we got Yavapai up in a year, and you guys are doing roughly the same amount of modules as they are. But it depends on how many permits you have. But our process is, once we get everything contracted, we'll start an information gathering process with you. And Michelle will send you, here's the information that we need based on the stuff that you want us to have us implement. We'll send you a file structure or a place where you can put all those just drop those documents in there, that kind of thing. Then we'll do a kickoff meeting once that's all. I'll assign your implementation manager. Then we'll really start the weekly walkthroughs. Let's say we're starting with the building permit department. Each week you'll have a web conference meeting with them, usually an hour and a half, and they'll come and show you the work that they have done that week. So maybe, first week they got a couple of your permits in. They'll have maybe some of the subtypes. He'll walk you through all of those. You'll give him, feedback in the meeting. But yeah, oh, we need to report on this, or, we have to have the workflow also do this, or whatever it might be. And then we're going to also ask those people in the meeting to log in on themselves and spend another hour getting hands-on and trying it, rolling up your sleeves, doing the stuff that he just showed you. Because when you get in sort of that, it's one thing to see it from a passive perspective. It's a different thing when you roll up your hands, log in, and now you're active on it. And then you'll give them your feedback from those things that you see during your active sessions. Then the next week, he'll show you the changes that you requested. He'll show you the new work that we've done. You'll give him feedback, do your hands-on session, and we keep just going through that process until you guys say, "Yep, that's right. That's how I want it." It's all the setup and all that's a fixed price. Because we're going to do any of those changes either now or later on. That's just part of like our support. So you're not going to get any change orders from us unless you came back and said, "Oh, we forgot about this database. We need to migrate," or we didn't think we were going to do Laserfish. Now we're going to do Laserfish. Those would be the only kind of changes that we'd have. And then once things are almost completely finished, with your setup, then we'll start the data migration. And we'll take your data, we'll write the scripts, we'll move that into the system. We're going to ask you guys to review it carefully. If it's not exactly the way you want it, no problem. We'll get rid of the data. We'll rewrite the scripts. We'll have you run it in again. And we'll do that as many times as it takes until you guys are like, that's the way that we want it. Then once we have everything configured, we have your data in the system. We'll start training in small groups of people who have like job responsibilities. We'll do that through a web conference session. How we work sounds very post-COVID, but we've been doing it for 20 years. We've never sent our people on site to do things. So we'll walk through with people. We'll do walk them through their job responsibilities. Then we'll turn control over to them. We'll coach them through it, let them drive, and like I said, kind of help them out in that process. Then go to the next person. And if someone doesn't get it, or we notice that, or that person says, "I still don't get it," then we'll do another training session with that person. Training is unlimited, both in the implementation as well as from a support side. If someone comes in to take someone else's replace, you want us to train them, we'll do that for you. So now we've gone through the training. You guys will pick a date that you want to go live. You'll stop entering, any transactions, let's say on a Friday afternoon, into your existing system. We'll need a backup of that data that night, and then we'll run those scripts over the weekend. And then when you come in on Monday morning, last stuff that you worked on in your legacy system is now in Citizenserve and you're live.
How long will we have access to our current system after the go live?
Is that an on-prem or is it a software as a service?
That's an on-prem.
Yeah, then you'll have it forever, or forever long.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, that sounds good.
You had mentioned that you were adding the offline work storage for like inspectors in the field. That was something you were working on. Do you have a implementation date when that's going to become active that you know of yet, or?
No, I mean we can show you what we have now. We're adding some additional custom field types to it. Really, is what we're doing, but we can demo that for you if you want.
So I think what his question was, are you going to have offline capability for workers in the field
If they don't
coming
have
up?
Yeah, we have that available now. We're just adding additional custom field types, so the inspections will have more fields available. Most of our customers don't have a lot of fields on inspections, but like we work with the State Fire Marshal of Georgia, they've got very complex inspections that they do, and so we're adding some additional custom fields for them.
Well, and I think
it sounded
right, that's not rolled out into production yet, the existing stuff. So we would need to get back to you guys with the date when that's going to be available.
Right, but we can demo it for them now if they want to see it.
It sounded like when you were talking about that before that you were saying something about when they're out in the field, if they weren't in an area with signal or whatever, that they were gonna have to like have multiple windows open or something, and then it like saved that or something. Like it really wasn't a do all your work and save it, and then when you get back in, it uploads or whatever. It sounded more like a
Well, so there's two. So I'd say for most of our customers, that's if they're out of a service area, that's kind of how they're doing it. They'll just open it up there. Next inspection, when they have connectivity on the drive over, they're going to complete it. When they're driving back, they're going to save it. We use caching in the browser, so a lot of the information is there. We work with the State Fire Marshal of Florida. They do boiler inspections all over the state, and they don't use the offline module. They're just using it, just like I told you the first time. We do have this new piece that we're working on that we can demo to you. That is, we're working on adding some additional features to that, which would be, all right, you're going to basically download all your tasks for the day, all your inspections for the day before you go out. And then instead of having like an inspection each tab, then you just go from inspection to inspection. It uses some other advanced caching features that are available. And when you get back, or you get in, whenever you get back to an area where you can save it at the end of the day, you can save it throughout the day.
Oh, okay. I think that was Russ's question, perhaps, was when do you think that's going to be available?
I would say probably within the next 6 months.
So if we're looking at a year out, certainly by that time it would be available.
Yeah. Do you guys find you don't have connectivity out in the field today? Because
We have, Verizon is pretty good around here, but there are some areas where it's not great.
Yeah, and we don't push a lot of data. It's not like you're moving a lot of data across into Citizenserve. But
as far as what the inspectors say, that there's several areas where they lose that connection, and that was one of the problems we had before when they had tablets or computers out there initially.
Mm-hmm. The offline mode would certainly help.
Yeah.
Is that an additional module for an extra price?
No, when we come up with stuff like that, we get all of our software. It's like when we came up with our document markup tool. We don't go back to our customers and go, hey, we just came up with this document markup tool. It's great. If you want to use it, we're going to charge you more. It just gets rolled in with everything else.
Okay.
And are those updates automatic, or is that something we have to go through?
No, they're automatic. We do them every couple of weeks. We update the application servers. It takes us about 10 minutes. And anyone, you could subscribe to kind of the release notes for those releases so you can kind of see what's coming out.
Any other questions?
I think that's about it for us.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate
thanks a
it.
lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there. It's a lot to watch.
There's a lot. We've recorded this session, so I will send it out to everybody as soon as it compiles today.
Thank you
So much for your time.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Pat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.